Well, you defended Jay-Z against the anti-Semitism claims after he put out Story of O.J.
Well, too many times we point the finger rather than have a dialogue. I was never a fan of the ADL when Abe Foxman worked there. I like Jonathan Greenblatt, but Abe Foxman would be quick to point out things that were easy to discuss in private, publicly. I blame Abe Foxman and his fight with Louis Farrakhan for dividing blacks and Jews in a way that was unnecessary.
What do you mean?
They have had a long, you raise money when you find good boogeymen.
Okay.
Right? And so this bickering back and forth, and Abe always pointing to, imagine you did a 1,000,000-man march, and then you did 1,000,000 family march, you did all of these great things. Black people love you. If someone attacks you, then you disconnect all of the person's followers from your community. And Abe Foxman was viewed by African Americans at one moment as, every time he opened his mouth, he didn't find an African American he did not call an anti-Semite. There were no leaders, no Andrew Youngs or Reverend Jacksons or Reverend Sharptons or Louis Farrakhan. He didn't find one. He even found Will Smith and Kanye West and others to be anti-Semitic, publicly.
Okay.
So what do their fans do when they hear these claims? And what do the members of the Jewish community do who follow? Because he was a bit of a pit bull, which I get. But I don't believe that that's the best way to create unity. I think, what I did quietly is I put Louis Farrakhan and Rabbi Sneyer in a room.
Yeah,
what
I
I did,
this.
huh?
I heard about him meeting with rabbis and other
Well, I'm the
Christian
chairman.
leaders.
My partner is
Okay.
Rabbi Mark Sneyer in the Foundation for Ethnic Understanding. He was the head of the North American Board of Rabbis, and he was the chairman of the World Jewish Congress, World Jewish Congress. And so I work with him every day.
Okay.
And we work on fighting anti-Semitism worldwide. And I don't think attacking African American leaders is going to help foster relations between blacks and Jews. I don't think that's a good idea. I think having dialogue is always key. And people, even when I went to Israel, they thought it was impossible. But I went to Israel to create dialogue between imams and rabbis, which I had done in 40 countries. Simon Perez, God bless him, said it doesn't look possible, right? But it was. And we had imams speaking in synagogues and rabbis speaking in mosques. But how did I do it? I went to Chief Rabbi Metzger, who was the rabbi, Israel's chief rabbi. And I went to the Imam Hassan, who was the Grand Mufti of the Palestinian people. And they said it was never possible, but guess what? They both approved it. And we had imams speaking in synagogues and rabbis speaking in mosques. And even the Israeli press said it wasn't possible. But then they were proven wrong. Because it was not only my naivety, but I know that when people are in a room together, they find common ground. We all have the same aspirations, hopes, desires. We all have the same makeup. And we want the same things. And there's no reason why a man of faith who's a Muslim and a man of faith who is a Jew, both children of Abraham, can't find common ground when they live in only common ground. There is no other ground to live. So there's no reason when you put them in a room they wouldn't get along. And we did it. And we're going to do more of it. And we've been doing it for 20 years now. So it's just, my point is that you can't attack people publicly and think that that will somehow create unity when you can simply go to them and have a dialogue and create some kind of fostering of understanding. That's what we do, and that's what I believe in. So anyway, that was Abe Foxman, and that was the old ADL. The new ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt, I think is much more, you understand that anti-defamation is not only against Jews, but the ADL is for everyone. And I believe that that's what all the organizations should do. They may be sensitized to the plight of the Jews in the way the NAACP should be sensitized to the plight of the African American community. But you see discrimination. Any community that fights for their own rights are only as honorable as they will spend that same energy fighting for the rights of others. That is my strong belief. And so what we do is we have imams fighting anti-Semitism and rabbis fighting Islamophobia. When we created the I Am Muslim for a Day rally, it was the rabbis that helped me create that rally. And when we, and it's always been this way. That's always been where we have the best result. When you have Jews standing up for Muslims doing a good job. When you have Muslims standing up for Jews, you're doing a good job. It's easier, it spreads bigger, it's easier to digest for the communities watching, and it's, it's taken more seriously.
When we post an article and there's a Jewish figure in the article, or someone who people perceive to be a Jew, whether they think it or not, there's usually a level of anger and hatred towards Jews in the hip hop community in particular.
Well, I would disagree. I would say that the hip hop artists are perfect examples, or best examples at least, of how Jews and blacks have worked together for all these years. When I see a Scooter Braun as an example of a good Jew who has fostered careers for African Americans, and whose father had supported Joseph Papp and our foundation long before he was born. 28 years ago when Scooter was born, around that time his father was spending money with our foundation. So when I see a Leo Cohen, when I see a Rick Rubin, when I see a Brett Ratner, when I see, God knows how many, Julie Greenwald, these people started with me, right? And I see what they've done and how they've given back to the community and how they've been, and I say good Jews because they fight for the rights of Muslims in cases where I've honored them and helped them. I think black-Jewish relations, they were, like during Crown Heights and around that time, it was very bad, but I think black-Jewish relations, we realize we need each other. We realize we need each other, and in this moment, more now than ever, we need each other. When they're marching, they're saying what they're saying about Jews just like they're saying it about blacks, and blacks recognize that. So there's a common thread and common history, and our common fate and our futures are tied together. But I do believe there's a tremendous amount of anti-Semitism now, more than we've had. There's more hate crimes against Jews today than there's been in a long time. And I do believe that we as African Americans should recognize that and make that part of our mantra. As we fight for the discrimination, against the discrimination that's against us, we should recognize that we have brothers in our fight. Always been a great support system for African Americans has been the Jewish Americans in our times of struggle, and even now. So I think that there's a common thread that we have to recognize, and a common threat that we have to recognize together.